and I'm going to hand over to Sound Connections. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Phoebe, and hi everyone. Nice to see you. So yeah, thanks for inviting us to come and talk a little bit about our work today. So we're going to kind of be touching on how we at Sound Connections have youth voice and participation embedded in the way that we work and across our organisation. So my name's Liz and I'm a programme manager at Sound Connections, and I look after our sector support work. So I do a lot of work with different organisations, supporting them to develop their youth voice and participation work, but also, you know, when we're doing strategy work and evaluation and organisational change stuff with organisations across England and further afield as well. And I am joined by my colleague T. T, do you want to say a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm T Peters. I am hoping to run the program at Wired for Music. So obviously Liz is my colleague at Sound Connections, but I'm hoping to manage the Wired for Music sector, which is around children and young people, making sure they get what they need in terms of growth in their music career, whether that's mentorship, funding, and a whole bunch of other opportunities that I'll just go into later. But that's what I do at Wired for Music, and outside of that, I'm a musician as well. But you'll find out about me later in the presentation, so I'll leave it there.
Thanks, T. So yeah, so we're going to go through kind of what we at Sound Connections do, what Wired does, why we work in this way. Then we'll hear a bit about T's story as well, you know, as he's come up through Wired for Music himself. And then we'll kind of just touch on a few different ways that we have youth voice embedded across our organisation, and then we've got some time for questions. So do feel free, if things come up whilst we're talking, to pop them in the chat and we'll try and address them as we go along. But if not, like I said, we'll have like at least 15 minutes to have a chat at the end. So yeah, so moving on. So Sound Connections, what do we do? Well, we have been, it's our 20th anniversary this October. So initially we were set up as a youth music action zone for London, you know, 20 years ago, whenever that was. And since then we have evolved as an organisation from running lots of different programmes and musical activity from, you know, music leader to sing up, etc. And now we do our own training and development programmes and run networks for practitioners, so ranging from the early years music network to music and social justice network. We have a fantastic programme of training that is starting next month, so we'll be looking at all sorts of different things, ranging from mental health and trauma-informed practice to inclusive music making in ensembles, as well as youth voice in a classical music setting as well. Then we also run Wired for Music, which is our flagship programme for 16 to 25-year-old Londoners, which T will take us through. And then we also offer sector support work. So as I said, working with organisations to develop their work from strategy to evaluation and youth voice. So each year we work with around 30 different organisations, supporting them you know, in whatever area that they need, ranging from like really small grassroots music organisations who might be funded through a youth music project, to national institutions like Arts Council England, and doing work for the British Council and the likes of that. So very, very broad ranging kind of scope of our work, but it's all rooted in children and young people, music and creativity. And yeah, so T, I'm going to pass on to you to tell us a bit more about Wired.
Cool. So with Wired for Music, this is a project that was set up in about 2010 as a youth council, and since then we've kind of evolved into a network of, right now, over about 1,000 young 16 to 25-year-old Londoners. I think in totality, the stat is like we've worked with about 8,000 members over the years that we've been working on this project. We do quite a range of things, just as Liz was talking about Sound Connections having a nice range of activity from music to the education and music side of things. We kind of do that as well, in the sense of when it comes to having our young members, we offer them quite a lot of stuff from mentoring, we make events, podcasts, opportunities that are a bit more paid, hot desking. There's quite a lot, but I'll go into like three that I like to talk about. We have Generate, which is our funding opportunity. We have it twice a year, and in this year's one, you can apply to up to £1,000 for a music project of your choice. And when people apply, we obviously shortlist them and get about six people to join in the project. They get 6 months of mentoring as well as kind of ongoing support in kind of signposting them to people that can help them with their project and stuff. It's a really good idea to kind of help someone start off their journey, or at least continue it. We've also got mentoring as well, which obviously I touched on that with the Generate thing, but also we've got kind of almost like we call it a mini DNA session, but essentially people can just email me or somebody in the team and say they would love to have a chat with someone in the team. And we've designed kind of a mentoring template that allows us to kind of have a conversation with the young person, find out what their needs are, what they want to do in maybe a year's time, how they can develop, and we kind of just give our own expertise and help them out. That's just a one-off, but like we usually try to just build our relationship with them. And if they want to come back and have another one, we'll do that. And finally, another one I think about a lot is just our paid opportunities in general. We always set aside some funding to give a opportunity to a young person at least once a month. So in this case, because it's really case by case basis, like we try to have money so that if there's a need in this specific time, we can meet that. So right now we know that our young people need more opportunities. Obviously, with the times that we're in, it's harder to find work, it's harder to find music events and stuff like that. So we always try and keep a consistent newsletter or ongoing kind of posting online, kind of like a news board that shows what opportunity is available. And because we have a small team, we needed help in curating a list of opportunities each week. So this month we brought in one of our Wired for Music members to help us kind of do some research, find out what opportunities are out there, so that we can put that into our communications and our marketing. So that's been really helpful. Shout out to Millie Rose, who's not here, but I'm shouting her out anyway because she's done a great job in finding all of the opportunities that's been helping the team and the members so far. But that's what we do. Liz, do you want to take over? Because you can go into a bit more detail as well.
Yeah, sure. And one thing I wanted to just pick up on actually was the residency that we've been doing at Rich Mix. So
yeah.
you know, that kind of came out of the idea that lockdown, pandemic, etc., young people, you know, everything moved online, so it was really difficult for young people to get some opportunities to produce events in person, but also to perform, to, you know, have that space to cut their teeth, have a bit of a go, make mistakes in a welcoming and accepting environment. And so I think today, have we done about 5 of them this year? Four, yeah. And we've got the 5th one coming up as part, which is linked in with our anniversary event, isn't it? Yeah. And they've been amazing, absolutely incredible. Like the last one that we had, which was back in the summer, which also was it, yeah, July. The talent was just out of this world, but the energy in the room as well was just fantastic. And like to have essentially a space where young people can come, network, have, you know, perform, it's you know, it's relaxed and supportive, was brilliant. And we got loads of you know, great feedback from that, where young people had to come on their own and they, you know, had then met other people who are also interested. So like creating these spaces yeah, that, like I say, that are welcoming, relaxing, but also supportive is really important. And you know, that idea came out of us talking with and, you know, listening to what our members needed. Is that, you know, they were really feeling the effects of the pandemic, and, you know, all of the you know, effects that's had on self-confidence, which you need a lot of. So if you're going to get up on stage and all that type of thing, you also need the opportunity to practice, and you also need, you know, a professional venue to do that in. And so that's where the idea of the residency, as we've called it, has come out of. And yeah, it's just been really, really great, and I'm really looking forward to going to the next one. What were some of the things that they said to you, like the Wired lot said to you, T, afterwards? Because you were really key in putting that on.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we had a lot of good feedback in terms of kind of the fact that we were kind of meeting the need at the time, which is having a space to meet people in real life. Of course, having a space to perform, having a space to express yourselves musically and create, because you know, when we make these projects, a lot of it is based on what the young person wants. They usually play a part in actually building the events. Like the ones we did in January, February, and March, those were programmed by me and another Wired for Music member who realized that maybe we need to have a session of just creativity in the morning before all the performances. So, you know, like that was really helpful actually, because we just had what I think there were like 12 members is in a space just creating music for the first time together, seeing what they could come out with. And it was magical because, you know, in a few hours they came from having not even knowing each other, and then the next day performing that same song that they had just made in front of everyone at Rich Mix. And it was beautiful to see. And yeah, we kind of just keep that kind of ideology of keeping the young person's voice included in our work. So even in the next one, I programmed it so that I have a live band and I'm going to have them come on perform at the next event and deliver like an open mic service where the members can come in and perform with a band for the first time maybe, or get that practice in. And I kind of got that idea just based from the last event that we did in summer. People saying, oh, I'd love to perform with an instrumentalist, or I'd love to perform again on the stage, maybe bigger. So, you know, it's a lot about just making things happen for them based on what they think that they need to develop. So, yeah.
Yeah. And I suppose as well, also, you know, following through with that. So we ask, we listen, we do. And that's kind of key to how we have youth voice embedded in our organisation. And I also just want to pick up on another thing that you've started to expand on the mini DNA sessions, haven't you? So doing kind of a group, well, what was drop-ins, but now it's a little bit more focused. How are they going to?
Yeah, so I mean, this isn't fully my idea. When I was a member before, and you'll find out, every like end of the month we would do like a meetup in the office where we could just jump in and have like a networking session and just talk and share music. I just had the idea to bring that back. I think everyone in the team thought it was very important. Like it was always nice to have people in the office chatting away and have that sense of community. So I brought in what I've called the insight sessions, just rebranded the name, and essentially like a small group of young people come in for the first time. The floor is open to questions. We'll bring somebody that knows what they're talking about a certain subject, and they'll kind of deliver kind of their experience about that subject. But it's not like a chatting lecture, do you know what I mean? It's kind of a circle. And if you have something to say, just ask that question. Do you know what I mean? So it's a really kind of informal way of networking as well as gaining knowledge. So it's been good so far. The first one was really nice. You know, the room was packed in our small office, which I didn't expect. And I'm excited to bring it again next week and onwards, hopefully. So Yeah.
Absolutely. And yeah, again, that's about meeting a need that's been expressed, and then people turn up because they want to go to that type of thing. And that's also how the program has evolved over the past 12 years. You know, as T mentioned, it started as the young council, music council for London kind of thing, and has like really kind of evolved away from a very structured system into this very flexible and fluid kind of service to young people, where we have an overarching idea, but there's so much like flexibility and creativity in what we do. So we've kind of got, you know, the pillars that he mentioned of mentoring and funding and guidance, but that can be expressed in all sorts of different ways depending on what the young people we're working with at the time are telling us that they need. So yeah, it's one of the questions I always get asked is, you know, so how exactly do we do youth voice, etc. And it's an answer that people don't want to hear, but it changes all the time, and it is really about listening and collaborating and being creative in meeting those different needs. And that's just how it works in our setting, and how Wired has been set up and evolved in that way. So just moving on slightly, so, you know, how do we do youth voice? How do we embed it? You know, as I mentioned before, it's all around consulting, asking, you know, giving that space for that, but then actually listening to that and taking that on board, and then responding to it so that it becomes a closed loop. And one of the things that, you know, have come across in the past is that it's the asking and listening is kind of the easy part, but it's the doing it that can be difficult, because, you know, maybe what the young people you're working with want is different to what your idea is as the professional adult in the situation. And actually that is the beauty and the hard part of it, in that you have to work really actually collaboratively and side by side, so that it is about negotiating this space and ideas together, and really sharing that power, and not going, well, actually I'm the program manager, so I've just decided we're going to do that. It's like, no, if we're going to ask and listen, then we have to respond to what we're hearing. And then another way that we think about it is, you know, around shaping things and giving young people the space to lead things, to produce things, and then that empowers them to go on and deliver things themselves. And, you know, I think T, I'll let you tell your story, but T is a prime example of that process, that, you know, he came to us of his own accord. He's taken lots of opportunities, and he's grown. He's now leading stuff and producing, and he's empowering, you know, the next generation of Wired for Music members, because he is now leading that program. And so that's a really long-term evolution. You know, it's like, when did you join T? Maybe like four odd years ago, maybe longer than that. You know, and that taking that time and investing that energy in the young people, but then you see the benefits far later down the line. You know, it's a really important thing to consider as well, that it's not overnight, it's not a 6-month project. This is like years and years of investing in ourselves and working in this way with children and young people. You know, and it is really all about organisational change in that sense. And so then moving on, so why do we do it? I mean, I'm sure so many of you have heard this before, but it is a young person's human right to have their views heard, and it's enshrined in the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child. So it's not a wishy-washy way of working. It is grounded in children and young people's rights to have influence over their own lives, and it's all about figuring that out together. But it's also part of our organisational ethos and values. So, you know, when we talk about embedding youth voice and participation, I think it's really important to think of it not only just in like terms of how programs or projects or what activity you run, how it's run, but it's also a mindset of the people that are delivering this work. And it doesn't just sit with one person, but it is across the organisational ethos and behaviours and capacities and skills that we expect of our team, because everybody at Sounds Connections is invested in this way of working. It's one of the things that, you know, when people apply for a job or, you know, have an interview or appointed, etc., like, we talk about it non-stop basically, and it, you know, it's not just a sideline thing. It's really, really embedded in the people and therefore the organisation. And also it then has a really positive benefit for us as an organisation, if you want to look at a reason why to do it, you know, because it keeps our work relevant and relatable. And, you know, as T has described, you know, the insight sessions and the residency, etc., they're relatively new pieces of activity within the programme over the past 10 months or so, that have evolved out of, you know, things that we've done previously that are in response to what the network is telling us. And therefore young people coming along to it, you know, we invest time and energy into marketing and communications and things, but because they're already invested in the idea, because it's come from them, then they're coming along to stuff which is, you know, it's great. And actually the insight session, you know, we were thinking, well, actually we're going to have to go and get a bigger room for next time, because we're at capacity we didn't think we would be. So, you know, that's a real kind of joy to see, and that, you know, really encourages you to continue listening and responding, because people are coming, and yes, this kind of energy exchange, which is brilliant. So T, I'm going to pass back to you, and you can tell us about your journey and your story.
Cool. Thank you, Liz. So yeah, for me, yeah, my name's T Peters, and right now I produced a program for Wired for Music. I'm a musician as well. I do quite a lot of things, to be honest, within both of those things. But that's where I am at today, just making the event next month, chatting to young people, mentoring and stuff like that. But in 2018, I was in university. I was studying English and creative writing at the University of Nottingham. I had no idea what I wanted to do. I had an idea. I knew I wanted to do something creative, something adjacent to English, and that can be anything from journalism to marketing to music to poetry. So I was just figuring things out. And with that, I've always kind of had this mindset. Well, I don't always have it. I kind of developed this mindset of feeling the importance of consistency, trying to just work towards something so that you can find out if you like it and see where it takes you. So that's the message that I give to people all around. So that's what I was doing, and I discovered Wired for Music while I was on that journey. I saw a posting for a couple of their events that they were doing. They were doing a lot of like performance opportunities, and kind of, obviously they had the funding ones as well. And that piqued my interest, because I just thought, okay, where I'm at, I also want to look into how I can, you know, participate in this music thing. So they'd always post opportunities on their website or on their social media as to like what's available. So I would just take part in little things every now and then, or just even to spectate if they were doing a show. And I was inspired by that kind of sense of community. Like I remember going to, I think it was Camden Roundhouse when they were doing an event and just watching the talent and seeing how these people were developing. So that was very cool to see. And in 2019, after doing all of that scoping, they released the invitation to apply for Generate, which is where you can apply for up to, at the time, I think it was up to like £1,250 for whatever music project you wanted to do. And I was in the space of wanting to do music. So I had skills to be a videographer, I could edit. I was, working with O2, like these different companies on films, but I knew I didn't want to do that at this point, but I did kind of want to do something visual with my music. So I applied for the full amount, and it was essentially to do a film for a song called Southside, which is about gentrification in Southeast London. And with that project, I wanted to make a film, but also give opportunities to other young people in South London so that they could learn how to, be part of a film set, edit video, do the stuff that I didn't really want to do anymore, but I had the skills in doing. I wanted to give it back. So to me, this was the perfect opportunity. They were literally saying to me, if you have a project and you've got a community that you want to bless, apply. So that's what I did. And I took my phone calls, my interviews, got shortlisted and selected. And with that money, we made it happen. And it was really good to see. I had such great feedback about people going to drama school afterwards. One guy went to Guildhall. A couple of people went to some established schools. I'm not going to say it was because of me, but I want to say I played a part in their CV. So I was very happy to hear that. The video's been taken down by me, but that's only because I want to do something with the song. So it's going to come out again in the future. So if you want to see that, you can follow me and see that in the future. But after that kind of just empowered me to do what I wanted to do with music. Ever since then, I kind of continued my philosophy of just kind of, consistently doing what I wanted to do with music, and Wired for Music was always there. They'd always have a monthly newsletter. They consistently had social media posts showing off what opportunity there might be with youth music or this person or that organization. So that was a very, very big help and into what I was doing. And, I remember the significant point for me was during lockdown, like the very beginning, 2020, lost my job and like a music venue because of there was no music venues. And I was just thinking to myself, okay, cool. I mean, I've got so many skills, so I'm gonna be fine. But what do I actually want to do with this? And Wired for Music was just there. Just randomly, they appeared with the newsletter saying, "Oh yeah, we're looking for interns." And all you need to do is have some info about video editing, marketing, music, obviously, and other things. I'm like, this is speaking to me. I didn't tell you guys this earlier, but at this time, I'd developed so many skills. I'd worked for one of the biggest music marketing agencies in the world. The client is Spotify. I didn't like it. I was making videos. I didn't love it. I was doing all of these things that I enjoyed doing for myself. And I just thought, well, why not I work for one of my favorite organizations and like just give them that skill then and just work that. And that's what I did. I took the internship. Happily, they accepted me. Thank you to the team, because I knew them well at this point. There was an amazing person on the team called Jasmine. Liz was there at the time as well. And I enjoyed doing the internship. And through my time just being there, I was able to, just develop. And I think we had a mentor session with one of the leaders. Her name was Jen. And I remember chatting to her and she said, what do you want to do in like 2021 onwards? Because you don't know whether your internship's coming to an end now, etc. What do you want to do? And I said to her that I just want to work. I just want to live a life in music. I don't want to work a normal job anymore. Like I don't really ever wanted to do that. That was like a promise I made to myself ages ago. I just want to do stuff in music using my skills. And she was like, okay, cool. And that's where I'm at now, you know. I am the program producer here. You know, Jasmine passed the role down to me. I perform every single week, done some amazing shows as a musician, you know, went to Germany this year, basically toured, did a lot of cool stuff as an artist and also as a program producer for Wired for Music, just kind of mentoring people at the same time. And I'm really happy to have that opportunity because for me, it means that not only do I get to complete my music goal, which is just to make good music and help people through music, but also as I'm learning how to be a good independent musician, I'm also able to give that skills to the members as well, and just work with the Sound Connections team in delivering all of that knowledge. So it's been a very good term so far. Hopefully, you know, I'm getting good reviews from the bosses at Sound Connections, but I think I am. So
you are, T, yeah.
But that is me. But the reason why, yeah, this is a power hour. We're talking about what it means to give people a voice. And throughout my whole time, I was just able to use my voice and, you know, use it to help other people as well as them helping me. It was never a one-sided thing. And I don't think many young people see it like that. Oh, I'm just going to take from this organization. Usually they got something to say that's going to help. Whether that's their own skills or just insight, you know, you're doing consultancy with them, just their words, their perspective is helpful. Do you know what I mean? So you never really know what listening to someone can do. Because I know that if no one listened to me when I'm saying to them, I've got this and this and this that I want to do, I got this and this I can do, you know, I wouldn't be doing this right now. So yeah, that's me.
Brilliant. Thank you,
Cool.
T. Yeah, no, but it's like you are doing an amazing job. You're bringing all those skills into the team, and then you're paying it forward as well. And I think that's one of the things that, yeah, is really nice to see, that you are invested in us as an organization because we've invested in you, you know, like as when you're a member and that type of thing. And you know, T's not the only story like that. So Jasmine can be who T mentioned earlier, who left as program producer earlier this year after being with us for 3 or so years. They were you know, a founding member of Wired for Music 12 years ago. Were part of the network, you know, then kind of aged out, as we call it, because they turned 26, etc. But then when you know, we had a space, the role of available for program producer 3 or 4 years ago, you know, the team were thinking about who would be good from the Wired network, you know, promoting it out to them, but also reaching out to people and saying, we see a lot of potential in you, we'd love to hear from you. And so from there, Jasmine became the program producer and has done an incredible job the past 3 or 4 years. And you know, we're sad to see them go, but this is part of the thing, is that obviously you can't stay in places forever, but they gave us so much, they learned so much, and now they go on and they supported T in his role in that development, etc. So there's a real kind of yeah, passing the baton kind of feeling to it. And again, Jasmine's story, you know, from joining in 2010 to becoming the program manager in 2018, that's a long time. That is a really long time, but it shows the power of working in this way, that it still benefited them as they grew up, kind of thing. Thank you for that, T. So kind of just to wrap up before we go on to questions. So, you know, how we have youth voice and participation embedded across our work. So we have a program, Wired for Music, where that is the focus of it. We also have young people on our team. So over a third of the organisation's team are under 25 at the moment. Then we also have young people on our board. So over a third of the board is now under 30. And then I think 2 of them are definitely under 25. And, you know, that's a supportive process, helping young people to step into those positions and get that experience, but also creating space within that so that they really do influence board decision and strategy. And then we have young people involved in decision making that lies outside of governance. So as part of, you know, our different strands, we have investment programs, so young people are involved in the decision making for that. Young people are also involved on the steering group for our training and professional development networks, and help out at events that we do as part of that strand of our work. Then the sector support stuff that I look after, you know, which involves consultancy, young people involved in the teams for delivering that with me so that they're getting these developmental opportunities. So, you know, we're looking at what do we do across as an organisation at a programme level, and find opportunities for young people, or create opportunities where it might be a bit tricky. Then we also have youth voice embedded across the team and board of the organisation, because young people's voices are represented at all levels. But then we also have youth voice and participation as an ethos embedded within ourselves individually as members of the team, because that is our commitment to working in this way that then enables us to have all these different opportunities and activities for doing this work. But I think, yeah, it kind of really starts with you at home. And as I said earlier, it doesn't just sit with one person, it sits across the organisation and across every person in the organisation as well. And, you know, that I think we first started as an organisation exploring this way of working and sharing power, essentially, back in 2007. So that's 15 years ago. And we share our learning with people that we work with, and, you know, doing things like this. But that's by no way saying that we know everything, because we're always learning all of the time. And that's a really, really key thing, I think, when you're working in this way, which essentially has got collaboration at its very heart. So yeah, so that is kind of how a whistle-stop tour of what we do and how we do it. And yeah, now we've got some time for questions if anyone wants to share. I know that there were some sent in beforehand, so I'm not sure whether they feel like they've been answered or not, but yeah, happy for people to come off mute or put in the chat and we can have a go.
There's one comment. Great to hear T's story. Thank you. Just a question about how you engage or reach young people who may be less confident about coming forward and taking part, or are newer to their musical journeys. Okay, cool. Thank you, Caroline. Shall I do that one, Liz?
Yeah, go for it. Yeah, and I can add in.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think that, so for me, obviously, most recently, I think I said that I started up bringing back our drop-in sessions where people can come in, and it's like an advisory session / networking session. And I found, because that one, I was running it. So I was the one giving the advice and sitting there facilitating. So when I was looking in that circle, I got a lot of feedback from people that said that they were suffering from things like social anxiety or just lack of confidence in music as well. Kind of the people you're talking about. And, you know, I think from the core, I feel like we kind of help people with that type of challenge just by kind of keeping our programming kind of accessible in this. So when I say this, I mean every time we do a session, I make sure that one from the get-go, there's room for your voice to be heard. I say from the very beginning, this is not a lecture. No one's above anyone here. I'm the same level as you. If we're doing this type of session, I'm going to speak to you. I'm not going to be on a stage. I'm going to be in the circle with you. So automatically, they already know kind of through the psychology of things that we're all kind of in this together as equals and we're just trying to help each other. And that's kind of, I think that did help. Also constantly having training as well. I remember Liz and Jasmine would always give me, when I was learning what I was doing and I was an intern, we'd always have training sessions about facilitation and co-facilitation with young people and how to make sure that we're safeguarding and making sure that they're heard. So through that training, I already know to make sure that if there's a quieter person in the group, you know, try to use certain techniques to allow them to have their opinion be heard, or at least empower them and give them a voice, even if they don't want to talk. Do you know what I mean? Too much. Just kind of, yeah, making things accessible in that way. So that's what we do to engage them when they're there. But I guess the other question is, how do you engage them when you haven't got them in the same room with you? Maybe this is online, they're at home and you're trying to reach those specific types of people. And that's a question. Liz, do you have one for that while I think about my answer to that one?
Yeah, well, I think as well, it's about thinking about this as a long-term way of working. So you know, sometimes, unfortunately, for young people to be asked what they think and share that, they have experiences where they aren't listened to, or you know, where actually it hasn't been followed through what they've said when they've been told that we are going to ask and listen and do what you say, but that hasn't been the case. So there is some work to be done around unpicking that, and I think reinforcing this space where you are, as the adult or the professional in the room, you are reinforcing that you are actually going to work in this way because you are asking, you're listening and you're doing, then can help those young people to have more confidence and trust in you that you are going to do that. Then the second thing I'd say is also with thinking about, you know, we talk about youth voice a lot, and sometimes, you know, I think if we think around people expressing themselves or their opinions in different ways, so actually maybe people will continue to be more nervous about voicing what they want to say, but could they express it in a different way? Are there different ways that we can ask questions and create spaces to hear what young people are saying, whether it's verbal or not? And there's this fantastic image that is of a young person standing next to this building, and they're in a wheelchair, and on the top of this building it says Children and Young People Services, Mental Health Services, but the lift is broken, and it's saying, is the young person hard to reach, or are services hard to reach? And so I think if we then flip that and go, okay, well, maybe they're not vocally saying what they want to because they don't have the confidence, but are we asking the right questions? Are we giving them space to do that in a way that they feel comfortable with? Yeah, I think that's something that I would think about for that one.
That's good, actually. And I'm just going to add on to that. Because I had my think, and another one just for like that communication remotely, like before they're with you. I think that in terms of digital communications and helping, you know, people get involved with your project despite being shy and stuff like that, I think consistency is a big one. A lot of people, they're watching what you're doing. they sign up to your they sign up to your mailing list, they follow you on social medias where you're posting all your opportunities. And one thing most people hate when, you know, they're trying to get involved in something is a lack of consistency. Are you always opening the door for them? How frequently are you saying we're doing this monthly session and it's open to anyone and everyone, and you can let us know what you need help with? The more you say that to someone, the more it's in their head that they have an opportunity available to them. So it's their choice to come and take part with you. But if you're doing it, you know, not often, and, you know, it's just not as, it's not as considerate, because then they're going to miss out, or, you know, they might not have that opportunity to take part in what you're doing. So I feel like having a consistent program is also very, very helpful in these things. And I think it's proven as well, just in the psychology or child development in general, just having a consistent figure, parent type of figure, whatever that might be, it usually helps people's development in general anyway. So I think our roles as organizations just designed to educate and help people develop. You know, we just got to be consistent with our communications as well, and constantly have that, you know, embedded youth voice nature within the culture, so that they can feel that they're about to be heard. So yeah.
Thank you, T. Then in response to Fiona's questions, does the organisation have a quota on the number of young people involved? I mean, if you mean within our team and board, not as such, but we do, you know, it's kind of just emerged in that way through our working, that we do have you know, younger members of the team and young people on the board. And obviously the board is like a that is a purposeful program, but it is something that we've discussed, like, actually, do we want to give ourselves the aim, but by this point actually 50% of you know, the board is made up of young people? Because obviously when it's from like an employee point of view, T is a young person right now, but when he becomes not a young person, we wouldn't, you know, we wouldn't want to see him off, kind of thing. But then thinking about like the young people that we work with, you know, that's part of our funding that we have, that we work with that number of young people, and that kind of tends to stay at that level because that's what we have capacity for, and that's who we engage with. So we have targets, but yeah, it's a bit more of a grey area there, I think. But there is an organisation called oh, their name escapes me, and they, which I'll think of in a minute, they essentially, how they work as an organisation is that they, you know, in their memorandum kind of thing, it's like everything has to be 50-50, so 50-50 split of young people on the board, all of the advisory panels, all of that type of thing. So, you know, that is one way of looking at that type of work. I hope that helps. And then Joe's question about embedding youth voice in the early years, working with young parents. Oh, and so Phoebe, you've sent some stuff for that. Yeah, that's great. I'd also say, Joe, to have a look at our early years network, because I know that we've got some sessions coming up around, you know, hearing different voices and things like that, particularly one around autism spectrum as well. So yeah, but I think Phoebe's covered off there. Great. Any more?
Very thorough. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got a question. I'm just typing the
go for it. Yeah.
Saying it. Yes, thank you so much. It's been a really great session. Always love hearing from you about youth voice and your experience of embedding that within your own organisation. So thanks so much for today. I feel like I probably asked this question in previous sessions, but it's just something that I always find a bit of a sticking point, is working out pay, and how to do that really consistently and fairly, and how to actually plan and budget for it, which is, I think, probably one of our biggest challenges at the moment. We know it's really important to pay young people for their work with us, because if not, we're then excluding those who can't afford to essentially work for free, and it's not like a fair and inclusive way to be supporting young people. However, something which I have experienced recently, which I wasn't expecting to, is actually some reluctance from young people to be paid for their work because of the added pressure that it adds to what we're asking of them. And actually it sort of resonated a little bit with T, what you sort of said about wanting to give back to the organisation. And I don't know if that's something that you'd come across, or if that's something you could advise or share any experiences with, because I feel inherently like it's so important that we pay people, but also if you take sort of slightly contradicts actually listening to what young people are telling us and telling us that they want, and how we can sort of implement like a really fair system whilst also being responsive to some people who are a bit anxious about the thought of being paid for their work. Yeah, just really keen to hear any thoughts you got about
that. Liz, you're smiling. I guess you look.
Well, no, I was going to say, like, do you have you had an experience with
I have
that?
had that experience, yeah, quite a few times actually. Like where you'll offer an opportunity to someone and like, oh, T, I love writing music so much. I don't even want to be paid. You don't have to be paid, you know. And it's like you're smiling because you're like, oh wow, I appreciate you so much. That you think of us this way. But of course, our role as well is we want to pay them because we want them to feel we want them to get work and that official professional experience. You know what I mean? So it's like a weird kind of thought process that goes on. We always try to pay, and in general, when we do a project, we consider it in our budget immediately. We kind of just pay by London living wage for most things that are at least over like 3 hours. I saw Philip in our team posted on our Slack today that the living wage has gone up to £11.95 an hour. So now I know that when we're doing applications and stuff, we're going to do what? One paid opportunity a month. That opportunity is going to be 5 hours. I'll just do 5 times £11.95 and add that to the budget. And that's what we'll apply for. So we kind of, from the very beginning, we're talking about, how we're going to officially pay our members. But when there's someone that doesn't want to be paid, I think like after listening to you and just on the topic of youth voice and listening to them, I'm also thinking about ways of how we can add value to them in other ways. Because maybe the lesson isn't, if you do work, you have to be paid, and that's the only type of value that you can gain. There's other ways you can trade value with somebody, and that can be through skills, or, what if I was a young person and instead of wanting money because I was good, I wanted, a meeting with Liz, and it will be an hour long, and she would give me everything I need to know about her job. And so that way I can go away and apply for, a job elsewhere with that experience. I think it's kind of opening that conversation to like, if someone genuinely just loves your organization, how can you work with them and trade the value in other ways other than money if they really don't want to have money? And that's obviously, as the adult safeguarding person, is your job to assess whether, they should be paid, or like if it's like a necessity. But if you generally think that maybe they would do well, skill trading or something like that, maybe you should think about that as well. What do you think? I mean, I haven't tried it fully yet. It's kind of just an idea.
Yeah, no, I was just thinking that, like, or could you essentially, have that pot that they don't, for those who don't want to pay, goes into a pot kind of thing, and then like every 6 months it's like, well, actually now we've got this extra pot, what should we do with it together, so it can then is repurposed and is benefiting them in a different way. Or like if it's, can you then still give them like an honorarium, or like give them a voucher to thank them for their time in a different way? Yeah, it's a funny problem to have, isn't it?
Yeah.
that.
We have done that though. So
Yeah.
early.
No, thanks so much. It's really great to hear your thoughts. And I have been thinking a bit about that like skills thing, because I think when this question came up before, someone suggested you could have quite a clear distinction between training opportunities and then like leadership like facilitation opportunities, sorry for want of a better word. Like people aren't paid to learn, but they're paid to do stuff. And in a way that's quite like a neat distinction, but the thing I'm sort of challenging around that is, for example, when we're working with professional musicians, when they attend training sessions, they're paid for their time. Internally, when I learn stuff that's within my working hours, I am paid for that time. So it's, although like it seems like quite an obvious thing, if someone is being upskilled, is learning something, that doesn't need to be paid, I'm just sort of questioning it, because it doesn't work like that for other people. And I don't have a really clear answer of what we should be doing. I feel quite like it's quite messy about it, and it's quite hard to draw a really clear line in the sand around what is a paid opportunity, what is a professional development opportunity. And I know it's always going to be a messy process. There's no perfect solution to these things, and you have to do what's best for you and your organisation and the young people that you're working with. But yeah, I was just interested if anyone else sort of come across that in terms of how you be super clear about what is a paid opportunity for young people. But yeah, really great to hear your response.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've just been thinking of what you just said. Yeah, it's true. It can be a weird line, especially even I've had experiences where you do funding opportunities and somebody can't, finish their funding opportunity. Like they can't commit to not even a contract, but kind of the rules, for example. And then they'll say to me, RT, like, what do I do? Should I still accept the money now, or like, should I leave it? And it's weird, like, it's a conversation we're always having. Like, I don't know the answers, to be honest. I generally don't. I don't think any, but I guess we just got to work towards finding it.
It's like having a menu of different options, really, isn't it?
That's it.
Yeah. There's just one more in the chat, and then I'll pass back to Phoebe. And I've just lost the chat. I think it said, how do you embed youth voice in shorter term projects? And I think there are all sorts of different ways that you can, and it just depends. It depends, I suppose, what you're doing. So is it a musical project where, I don't know, there's a creation of a new piece at the end of it or something over 10 weeks? Obviously from that perspective, the project is set up and who you're working with is already kind of decided, and that is absolutely fine, because I think we have to be realistic about how we're working and who we're working with, different ages, different abilities, and all of that type of thing. But then thinking about the content of that project, where are the opportunities for young people to express themselves and have input within that? Is there already a clearly determined idea about what the output of that is going to be? Or is it that you can have some real flexibility in there? So if the aim of the project is that you do need to create a 10-minute piece of music, fine, because we're just defining the framework of what we're doing. But then can we really be creative and allow for all sorts of different things to come through in the music itself? So in that sense, there is youth voice embedded in the musical aspect of it, but the kind of project framework of it is set by the organisation or the team. And I think that is okay. It's about us making sure that we have questioned ourselves, and then we're not just assuming things and going, well, here is where the opportunities for young people's voices are. In an ideal world, we would create everything from scratch together, but that's not necessarily realistic in this instance. But the ways that we can do it are X, Y, Z, and that is what we're going to hold ourselves accountable to for that project, for instance. Yeah, I'm aware of the time, Phoebe, so I'm going to hand back to you. But thank you so much, T and everyone. It's been great to chat to you today.